guys, PIEGUYRULZ here, and welcome to the 49th edition of the Recast. I am joined every single time I am joined with MonstersReview.
Hey, what's up?
And this week we are also joined with a guy who likes Truth or Square, NICKtendo.
I'm NICKtendo, and I need 3 photos of Spider-Man by this week!
So this is a Spider-Man episode of the Recast. We are going to be talking about Menace of Mysterio from the mimetic 1967 version of Spider-Man, and the critically acclaimed 2008 episode Blueprints from Spectacular Spider-Man. So there's quite a gulf there in both in timeline and in quality, but we'll get to that much later. We also have a lot of news to talk about, a little bit more about San Diego Comic-Con news, some news about the Nickelodeon reboot TV movie things that are happening that we've all been excited about for a long time, and also I'll reveal the story of how I met NICKtendo.
Wow.
Ooh.
Is this gonna be like How I Met Your Mother, and there's like 10 seasons leading up to it, and you have to like filmed the ending like 3 years ago?
Well, I do have that email from 3 years ago.
Oh, actually it's 2, but very neat.
But before all of that, I should mention we have a Discord. It's the 49th episode, and the 50th episode might be a big boy, so you might want to hop into the Discord now and start talking. Start giving us stuff to talk about in the 50th episode.
Yeah.
We are actively looking for ideas of what we could do to help make that episode very special. So yeah, join the discussion over on our Discord. Link is in the description. Monsters, do we have any corrections?
A few. So first off, a lot of people were commenting about, for the visuals of last week's podcast, number 48, people took notice that the couch was long and that we were very far spread apart. And people thought that this was some sort of accident or mistake. But from the genius mind of Pieguy, this was intentional because we were covering episodes of Gumball that were awkward. And it's awkward when we're sitting at opposite ends of the couch and it looks way longer than it actually is.
The couch is no longer or shorter than it ever has been. We didn't like draw a new couch or something.
Yeah.
I just thought it would be funny if it looked as if there was supposed to be something between us, but there wasn't.
Yeah.
I guess not other people didn't find that funny, which is okay. It's not a brilliant joke or anything. I just thought it would add to the awkwardness of last week, which we didn't plan to talk about The Office when we were talking about an episode called The Cringe, but that was like a beautiful accident there. So
Yeah. Good visual gag, good spatial awareness.
Yep, there we go.
Someone in the comments told us we were talking about, I believe in trivia or maybe earlier on in the episode when we were talking about the Steven Universe movie, that unfortunately there's no Steven Universe Blu-rays in the US. But it turns out from the lovely folks at Mad Men Entertainment in Australia, they have Blu-rays. So
Mad Men.
Yeah, those lucky folks from down under have them and we don't. And it always makes me jealous. They also had Camp Lazlo season 1.
Yeah, they have like most of like the CN shows, even like really obscure ones like Symbiotic Titans. So whip out your Region 2 DVD players and, go on Amazon.co.uk or what have you.
I feel like it'd be like .az or something.
Yeah, okay. That's right. That's more accurate. Correction in this episode. Australia is not part of the UK.
On that note as well, it was confirmed that the Steven Universe movie is going to be 90 minutes. Ooh, Before we get into what we watched, can I read the email, Nick? I'll censor any sensitive information.
I just skim it at your discretion. I don't want to bore the fine listeners of the recast.
Okay. All right.
Pieguy, the awkward episode was last week.
So yeah, around the same time, well, actually, way later, way after Monsters' email, NICKtendo emailed me. Unfortunately, it was during the period at which I kind of forgot I had this mailbox, so I never saw it until a few weeks ago. So this was not how we met, but this is, I guess, the first time you reached out to me. And I responded coldly by never looking at it. So here is Nick from 2 years ago. Hello, my name... I won't do a voice. Hello, my name is Nick. though here on the internet, I'm known as NICKtendo. I've been reviewing cartoons on YouTube for... I'm sorry. It's not that funny. I just drink a lot of soda. Oh, oh gosh. It's really not funny at all. Okay.
He's got the giggles.
Hello, my name is Nick, though here on the internet, I'm known as NICKtendo. I've been reviewing cartoons on YouTube for over 2 years and have had a lot of fun and success doing it. Since as of now I have, drumroll, 13.8 thousand subscribers.
Hey.
Last week I decided to start an experiment. I want to create a countdown where various YouTubers, both big and small, come together to do one entry on the list.
Wow.
Each person writes and voices an entry, and then I edit. The topic? Top 10 Cartoon Network shows. More information on the collab can be found here. I'll leave it at that.
Wow, that was
I was a part of that.
Yeah, Monsters did Camp Laszlo on that collab.
Is that how you guys met?
I think so.
Technically.
We didn't really talk. I was aware of his content at that time, and
Yeah,
he
same.
emailed me, and it was like, oh yeah, I'll put Monsters Review in here because it was someone I had heard of.
If you talk to Monsters probably could have gotten in touch with me at that point.
Yeah.
I
This was
don't
like
know.
late 2017.
Yeah.
This was August 23rd, 2017. So yeah, almost 2 years ago. Not even, but yeah, now we're good friends.
Cool.
You guys are
Alright.
like Ash and Gary.
I hope I didn't embarrass you. On that note, I mean, there's another way. I have another story of meeting you.
Yes, you do. Do you want to talk about that?
So I kept it quiet. Did you? I don't think you said anything, right?
No one said anything about this except for some people connected the dots on Twitter.com.
Well, a few months ago, Nick was asked a bunch of people in the cartoon community if we wanted to meet up in the Big Apple to see Spider-Man.
Spider-Man Far From Home. You have to specify
Right.
which Spider-Man movie it is.
True. Spider-Man Far From Home. We were also going to go eat at the pizza place from Spider-Man 2. Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 2. And quite a few people agreed to it and then backed out. I agreed to it and also backed out, and then I backed back in. And essentially, Nick is the first person on this entire recast of all the people we've had on this cast, including Monsters. Nick is the first person I've actually met in person.
That's not true.
What?
You've met Nathaniel Bandy.
Oh, all right. Well, he's not in the cartoon community. Fair enough. Nate is literally the only other YouTuber that I've actually like met in person. But yeah, no, I met Nick, and I got there about an hour before you did, and I got in Port Authority, and where we were meeting was like way down in Greenwich Village. So it was about a 40-minute walk, and like I was thinking,
wow.
yeah, I was thinking I could take the subway. But I could use the exercise. I want to play Pokemon Go, whatever. And I had like an hour to kill before you got there anyway. So I'm like, well, why would I do this and spend the money and all that? So I walked, and I got some really good exercise, but it was really hot. So I'm sorry, Nick, if I was like really sweaty and like out of breath and just kind of discombobulated when I met you. But
Oh no, it was cool. I was standing out in the shade for like 10 minutes beforehand. Plus, we went to a Starbucks right after, so
yeah,
it was all right.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
We were in New York, so one was just right around the corner.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, no, Nick is as genuine and awesome in real life as he is on the internet. I can tell you that. It was a really nice meetup. Nick did a really good job planning it, and it was really cool. I'd enjoy doing something like that again.
Aw, shucks. I'm just glad I didn't get lost in New York. I mean, I was pretty far from home myself, so
So, on the topic of Spider-Man Far From Home, you finally saw it, right, Monsters?
Yep.
And Nick, you saw it too, right?
I saw it with you, yes.
Yes. So we've all seen it. So, it's a few weeks out now. There's going to be spoilers in this discussion. We're not going to spend a ton of time talking about it, but skip ahead to the next section if you don't want to hear about Spider-Man Far From Home spoilers. So what'd you guys think?
I can't believe Peter Parker was actually Spider-Man. Are you kidding me?
What? I can't believe J. Jonah Jameson is Alex Jones.
Yeah.
I can't believe J. Jonah Jameson is J.K. Simmons again.
I know.
It's so happy.
I can't believe Nick Fury was a Skrull all along.
Yeah,
I
that
feel
was
like
something.
Yeah. Well, did you see Captain Marvel? Were you in the know?
No, I haven't seen it.
Yeah, I have.
I feel like that was I've had probably several moments watching MCU movies, but that was one where I was like, oh, we're getting like full comic book reference. Like if you skipped that one specific thing, you aren't gonna get this big twist at the very end that probably doesn't need to be there, but it just hints just roping people in, get people in, getting their money.
From what I understand, it was like partially written in as an excuse as to why Nick Fury was like so off the ball in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I bought the excuse they gave, just that like he's been gone for 5 years. Like how does someone who prides themselves on intelligence like pop back into the world 5 years later and then just, you know, continues to operate as smoothly as Nick Fury does? Like, I trust that Nick Fury finds a way, but like he's gonna be set back by that.
Boy, it sure was convenient. It was sure was pretty convenient that most of the main cast members didn't blip.
Oh my god. Who cares?
Yeah.
Who cares?
Wait, you mean did blip?
Yeah, well...
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, you're right. Well, actually, no. Isn't blipping means that you left and then came back in a blip? So they did. Everyone did, because everyone's the same age.
Except for his hot friend.
Right. What was his name? Chad? Brad?
Brad?
Chad. Yeah, it was definitely
The Chad.
The Chad of the
group. It's interesting now that we have 2 Marvel movies in a row where like the entire first act is not very great to rewatch. Like once you know what's going to happen, because I also saw Endgame again the other day, and yeah, both Endgame and Far From Home have really kind of slow beginnings.
I like the opening with
oh yes,
yeah, the
In
opening
Memoriam.
bit is really good. The kind of thing you would actually see on like a high school broadcast.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of thing you would see on YouTube in 2008.
Yep. This is actually a specific reference because the MCU was started in 2008. I made that up. That was a joke. No one laughed because it was from me.
Oh, the best part of the movie was absolutely those like the, what are they called? I guess
drones?
the Mysterio sequences. Like I want to say fantasy, but they're not fantasy. They're like hologram, I guess. Hologram.
The magic show.
Yeah, they were really cool, but like it made me just say, you know, this movie probably could have been animated, and those probably would have looked better.
Well, I mean, it probably was animated, Nick.
I mean, no, the whole thing was, but I look, I'm biased because I had spent the week before editing a video of Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, so I was, you know, kind of a little, you know, I had high standards for what my Spider-Man adventures were going to be. So seeing, you know, just being greeted with Peter Parker bumming around for an hour, and then when the movie gets good, it's like, yeah, the Spider-Verse was better. I don't know. I mean, like, I still like... controversial opinion right there.
Oh, yeah, controversial opinion coming out of NICKtendo. That's fresh. No,
yeah.
But yeah, no, I mean, you guys didn't love those sequences? Like...
Oh, no, they were great.
Dude, zombie Tony Stark with Black Widows coming out of his eyes.
Oh, I didn't even catch the Black Widow thing. That's clever.
Yeah. I just, like... Those scenes are so intense and so good. Like I don't know if I told you, it was you, but I was like, well, I know what's going to be playing on loop and on the Best Buy huge 4K TVs for the next like 2 years.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Those scenes are made to sell Sony 4K TVs.
Yeah.
Watching them, it's like, oh, so that's why the first couple hour or so was like so slow. That's because they were saving the budget for that.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah, and like, I know a lot of people are kind of like hit or miss on the whole like, well, I want Peter Parker to not have the Tony Stark resources and all this stuff. But I don't know. From my perspective, it's like there's so many stories out there of Peter being like dirt poor and not having any resources and stuff. And I just kind of like that it's a different take. It's like the movie doesn't set him up to be Iron Man, but naturally, like, Iron Man's resources have got to go somewhere. Like they can't just disappear, and so I think it makes sense for Peter to have it. And they also kind of set up Peter maybe being like on the run or something in the next movie. So I doubt he'll just have like, you know, Stark technology the whole next movie. Plus, I really like his relationship with Happy.
Yeah, no, well, because Happy. Well, do you like the relationship between Happy and Aunt May?
I, I mean, you mean Aunt May's hot joke number 867?
Yeah, they really did a lot with that. But I'm making jokes at Far From Home's expense, but I liked it. I think the major problem I have with it, which some people thought this was a huge revelation, but I realized it like right after I saw the movie, it's just too similar to Far From Home. I was just getting the similar. Just
Wait, what?
Oh no, one, I'm stupid. It's too similar to Homecoming. It wasn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just getting like similar vibes from how it's structured. Both
School
movies,
trip.
both movies involve a school trip. The classmates getting in peril.
Villain related to previous events in the MCU.
Well, I mean, I think they did Mysterio the best they could possibly do. Although I think what Mysterio's lacking that the Vulture had is that the reveal scene where he's driving Peter to the prom.
Yeah.
With his daughter, and he figures it out. Like, that's such a great scene.
That's a gold moment.
Yeah, and that was Far From Home was really lacking that. The reveal is good. I'm not really sure what compelled Mysterio to just reveal his whole plan right then and there. I mean, I guess he was celebrating, but like, if I'm doing like, if someone's hosting like a staff business meeting, not everyone's gonna like the guy in charge isn't gonna describe everything they did in great detail. I mean, it's whatever.
They lean into the hamminess.
Yeah.
Like,
oh yeah, they do.
Empirically, Mysterio is hammy, as we will get to.
Yeah.
Like, even when he is more serious, he's still a huge handball because he's a stunt man that wears a fishbowl on his head and uses illusions to trick people.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. No, I'm glad they were able to like make Mysterio weak without making him seem like a complete idiot. Like there's a good balance between that. You know, and he was a great threat. The whole like wherever they were, the climax was really neat. I liked when he just flies into the drones. That was just an eye candy sequence. So yeah, I liked Far From Home. Could have used some more unique stuff. Maybe they could have done more with it being right after Endgame. It really wasn't much of like a conclusion to that movie. They can put Tony Stark on as many locations that they visit as they want. It's not going to make it seem like, oh, this is the next chapter.
Well, I mean, I liked how they handled Endgame in Far From Home. Like, right. I remember, I don't even remember who I was arguing with on Twitter about. Someone was like, oh, why didn't they answer what happens to this and this and this? And I'm like, it's a connected universe. Like, they'll probably answer it in the next movie. And they don't give, like, it's not like this movie's bogged down with a half hour of explaining the intricacies, but they do address things like when people came back into existence, they would come back where they were, so inconvenient places. You know, there would be people that would be like sad about the superheroes' deaths and mentioning like that Flash was blipped, so he's not as old as his driver's license or his ID says he is. Like little throwaway lines that kind of help explain like, okay, well, here's how this would work. You know, I never expected we'd get like a long diatribe about the explanations of all this stuff, and it doesn't need it. It just needs to be referenced and moved on from, and that's what Far From Home really does. I think there are like, I don't know, there are weird things about this movie. I know I will not like it as much on the second viewing. I know that for a fact because it is slow at the beginning. I mean, even though like the twist with Mysterio, you see it coming from a million miles away. Like that part was never a surprise. Even the details about him wanting the glasses, as soon as Peter like he picks up like it's obvious that he wants the glasses. But what they do with it, I feel like they did a really good job with, and I feel like it is just a really interesting, fun movie. I do agree, it's not the Spider-Man 2 of this trilogy, I guess. It's not. I don't believe this is going to be the strongest of the three, but I think it does kind of push things along decently well in Peter's journey.
What he said.
I like the conflict between him feeling like he has to be Iron Man, and actually rewatching Endgame, it reminded me a lot of Thor and like the speech Thor's mom gave him about how no one is who they are supposed to be, but you can do the best to be who you are. Like, yeah, good stuff. I thought the weird like lady who wanted him to strip down was a dumb weird Force thing. I thought, because I don't understand. It was just there for the stupid fake out like hot guy takes picture of him kind of naked.
Come on, we needed some extra drama with Brad.
Yeah, I liked MJ a lot more in this movie.
Well, that's because she actually does something in this movie.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
She wasn't just like a one-liner machine.
That realism at the end, though, with the web swinging.
Oh, yeah. That's a good bit. Good thing
Yeah.
it was spoiled for me in some of the commercials.
Ah. So before we move on to what the other thing we have to talk about, as I mentioned, I did see Endgame. I saw the extended version, which like I saw it because I wanted to see Endgame again and because my cousin wanted to see it. I didn't see it because of the extended footage, and oh my god, it's a joke. It's a complete joke. Like the extended footage is literally it's a 45-second clip of the Hulk that's not even finished. Like they didn't finish the effects. He looks like a PS2 game, and it's not inserted into the movie. It's just at the end. It's the first minute of Spider-Man Far From Home, which wonderful. I've seen it. And the only thing of actual substance is there was a nice little tribute behind the scenes featurette thing with Stanley. That was it. But that's gonna end up on YouTube and the home releases and all that stuff. Like it was such a terrible ploy. Like just encourage people to see the movie again. You know, don't pull this like nonsense about there's extra content, because it's not. It's we put the DVD extras at the end of the movie.
Aren't there like more deleted scenes that are coming out? Like,
Yes,
there's more
yeah.
on like the digital releases that weren't even on the extended cut.
I saw one on Twitter where it's like an extended cut of Tony's death scene, and like
Yes.
everyone's taking a knee.
Yes, yeah. But that would have been really interesting to see. Why did they chose the footage that wasn't even finished? It's like one of the Russos comes out and he's like, "Hey, I directed this movie. The other guy couldn't bother to be here. We really like this Hulk scene, and we wanted to show it to you, but we didn't bother finishing it. So here you go. Hope you enjoy Spider-Man."
Is he,
Why does
is
he
he
sound like
Zeus from
Zeus
Gravity
from
Falls?
Gravity Falls?
I don't know. I respect the Russos quite a bit. That was just a dumb bit. Anyway, the one thing I do have to note though about Endgame, again, I had a good theater for once, but in the beginning of the movie when it's all quiet and Tony's in the ship, I just can't wait to be king was blasting from the theater over, and you could hear it loudly from the Lion
So
King.
you indirectly watched some of the Lion King remake.
I indirectly heard it. I didn't watch it. But it was just really funny because it's like, well, I don't know if I'm going to make it out of this. I really thought I'd have one more. Oh, I just can't wait to be king. Very unfitting. So we all also watched the first episode of The Grid Car.
It was called Infinity Train. That was the name of the episode of the Grid Car.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Also, bold of you to assume that I watched this first episode of a show that I was really looking forward to.
Well, we told NICKtendo to watch the first episode of Infinity Train, The Grid Car. Did he?
Yes, I think. Yes, I watched it in like two separate chunks. And like when it was, oh, I know why. Because they were live streaming it on Cartoon Network's YouTube, and they started it like 3 minutes early. So I came in and was like, oh, I'll watch it. And then they pulled the live stream once the second the episode ended. So I didn't get to see it. Yeah.
Wow.
But I caught the rest on the app today, and I really like it. I don't think there's a better way you could really set up a show. One interesting thing to note is that the whole mystery, the original mystery of Infinity Train from the pilot was, how did Tulip get on the train? Well, we know how she got on the train, but learning more about the train, what One-One's doing on the train, and I just like going through the train. I mean, there's still like other mysteries, but one of the biggest
Where's the
ones-
corgi?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, there's an episode with Corgi in the title, so I assume it's the Corgi car.
You think they're just gonna like redo the pilot episode with just like better animation and some adjustments?
I don't know. And we don't know exactly how she got on the train. I mean, we know what led up to it, but we don't know. Is she dreaming? Is this a portal? We don't know what's going on.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I think the part where the train stops and she tries to run off, but is chased by some scary black monsters. Don't take that the wrong way. That's their color. But you know, I think that's really interesting because you just see like the desert landscape, and it's like, oh, she tries to like see what's out there, but it's pretty scary, so that's why she's staying on the train.
Yeah. It's a really good setup. It's definitely the kind of beginning you want in a show like this. Considering the pilot was so good, it's really no surprise that the first actual episode is. I don't think this was like the best episode of anything I've ever watched, but like it's a really good way to begin the story, I think.
even
like
the family drama, like to start, that kicks everything off, puts everything into action, is like really well done. It went farther than I thought a Cartoon Network show would.
Yeah.
I mean, they've like it was very explicit with the whole divorce subtext.
Right. Well, that's the thing. That was the unusual thing about it, is that like Cartoon Network shows have certainly handled heavy topics over the years. However, any time, at least in recent memory, it's been through the lens of fantasy. You know, Finn and Adventure Time has daddy drama, but it's in the fantasy setting. Steven Universe, but fantasy setting. Even like Gumball goes into like some light family issues, but obviously very fantasy comedy setting. To see before anything fantasy even remotely is hinted, to just have this straight up, this is the drama of a child of divorce, without anything to distract the younger children or whatever, was really bold. I mean, obviously, it's the kind of thing that adults like us enjoy, and I don't think it was inappropriate by any means. I'm just saying that that's a bold move to start the show like that.
Right. Yeah, not even like 20, 30, 52 episodes in, just right out the gate. That's how the character's life is. Mm-hmm. And it's definitely something, it's a good like thing to set the show off of, because it sticks in your mind as you're watching. It's probably going to stick in my mind as I'm watching through the rest of the show, as all these characters that we're barely probably going to see throughout the rest of the miniseries, unless there's some
that M word. Hang on.
Oh, right.
We'll talk. We'll talk about that after.
Yeah. Well, we're probably. I doubt we're going to see many of them unless there's some kind of fake out Lotus Eater Machine episode. There might be. I suspect it's kind of the show that would do that, or like do it in a really creative way.
Well, I think the reason why it was able to be so like ambitious and serious, and I don't want to say slow, but not not immediately jump into action, is because it did have the pilot already, and the pilot is very well known on the internet. Like, it's not like this was the first thing I was watching and I might click away if it's too slow. You know what I mean? It's like, no, I've seen the pilot. I know what this is. I want to see it. Even if it started off slow, even if it starts off on a downer, like no matter what, I wanted to see this through. So they're able to ease you into the story slower because they most likely knew that, a lot of people were already hooked on the show before the show even came out.
Yes. Now, do you want to talk about the M word?
Yes, the M word. Okay, so now, like about a week ago, Cartoon Network announced the release dates, and they announced it as a 10-episode, 5-night event. They said event specifically, not like a bomb, not a miniseries, but an event. And this prompted a lot of people to wonder, well, what, is that it? Is this the whole series? Is this season 1? What is going on? And so a lot of people asked Owen, the creator of the show, and what he said was that the show was in the format, Cartoon Network gave them freedom with the format, and it's in the format that he most wanted the show to be. He says something along those lines. He doesn't say miniseries. He doesn't say season 1. He just says that it's like a format.
The story was meant to be told this way, I think, is something what he said.
Yeah. So
that's keyword for I'm under an NDA.
Yeah. But I'm not here to be like, oh, that this definitely means there's more. Get your hopes up, guys. Don't do that. I would say expect it to be a miniseries, like in terms of your expectation and your hopes. However, I think the fact that neither he nor Cartoon Network said miniseries or season 1 or anything that really determines what this is tells me that maybe it's not either. Maybe it's a current version of the show, and maybe it's an anthology. Like maybe there will be a quote-unquote season 2, but it'll be with a totally different character on the train. Maybe it's a situation where right now the story is complete and Cartoon Network might order more next year. So they don't want to say it's a miniseries, because you definitely don't want to call it a miniseries if there's more episodes coming, possibly. And yet you also don't want to say it's a show if it's only going to be one season. So that's my thoughts on it. What do you think, Nick?
With how hard Cartoon Network's been pushing it for like at least the past year, even more so, it can't just be just a miniseries. If you compare this to Over the Garden Wall and Long Live the Royals, if anyone actually remembers that, yeah, the Royals ironically did not live long because they didn't re-air any of those episodes. But I digress. My point is that those received very little like pre-promotion, but Infinity Train had the teaser when the show was announced last like February. They've had 2 Comic-Con teasers, 1 teaser and 1 like full appearance. There's been a lot of like, they had like merchandise at the Comic-Con panel. They have all this stuff that they're putting out at Infinity Train. So yeah, I'm expecting it's either some kind of anthology, like you said, or it's just they're doing like 10 episode seasons and it's going to be released like annually
on a Rick and Morty schedule to every 2
yeah
years.
yeah maybe maybe they could just have like some weird distribution system of it.
Yeah,
but
maybe there's a movie like I'm not saying that to get your hopes up, but like
right, good. Something that I found was interesting as a somewhat a vaguely concrete method of showing that it might be more is a video from our friends at the Round Table, who pointed out in a behind the scenes fact video Cartoon Network published a while ago, like 10 facts to get you excited about Infinity Train or whatever they did. They're like, here's Tulip's design in the pilot, and here's Tulip's design in Infinity Train, the show. And it says pilot and season 1 as the labels. So if this was while they were still figuring out before it became quote unquote a 5-night special event, they're still figuring out what to do with it. Then season 1, it could turn out that this is just like, I mean, what people thought at first was, oh, they're just gonna air these as preview episodes, and then the rest of the show is gonna come. But now it seems like this is more of it's gonna be like beginning, middle, and end of a story, or some kind of like we're gonna reach some kind of stopping point by the end of these 10 episodes. Whether or not it's gonna be satisfying is yet to be seen. It's a Cartoon Network show, so we'll see.
The ones we haven't mentioned are the Adventure Time ones, which are miniseries, which they called miniseries, but there was no risk of anyone confusing that for like, that's all for Adventure Time. Adventure Time had like 8 seasons at that point, so calling it a miniseries was just a way to say, hey, these episodes are connected. It wasn't going to confuse people, because if they called it a miniseries, I mean, obviously they could still come out with episodes after, but that would be pretty concrete, you know?
Oh man, I love when they did the Adventure Time miniseries so much.
I know,
it was such a good way to present the show, especially when it like dropped on iTunes beforehand. You could just binge like 8 new episodes. And they were all like interconnected. It was like everything I wanted the show to be at that point.
I know, Nick. I know.
It was so good. I wish they do that. Yeah, Monsters. What do you think
of Infinity Train?
Of the Adventure Time miniseries. No, yes, of Infinity Train. Where do you fall on the speculation wagon?
Well, I know there's been a lot of people joking on Twitter that the show has been giving them chills, but believe it or not, it actually did give me chills. It blew me away. I just love the atmosphere and tone of the show. The existential jokes hit well with me. A lot of people haven't talked about this, but the blend between 3D and 2D animation was really cool.
Oh, that's right.
And it made me experience all sorts of emotions, which isn't exactly typical for me. You know, I got happiness, I got sadness, I got relatability, I got intrigue, I got disgust because onions are gross and she took a bite out of an onion. And yeah, I mean, the setup is relatable. It's you know, it hits home with a lot of people, especially me. You know, my parents divorced when I was in middle school, and I just, you know, I remember feeling misunderstood and not having certain promises fulfilled and just wanting to be alone. And that's exactly what Tulip experiences. So, yeah, I'm sure it's going to resonate with a lot of people like it did with me. And I have really high hopes for the rest of whatever they decide to produce. And yeah, I'm excited. I'm definitely going to tune in and watch it.
And for the record, I would honestly be completely fine if it was just a miniseries and nothing else. I mean, I of course, you know, of course you always want more of something that's good, but like
if that's the vision, then that's the vision.
Yeah, with getting so little closure and endings on anything ever, it's nice sometimes to get a story that's told in 1 season or 2 or whatever, and
Gravity Falls.
and they get the chance to end it on their own terms without a gumball situation, or, you know, and name any number of shows that got canceled before they got a nice finale or got to close every loop. You know, it's nice to have concrete.
Clone High.
Yeah, you knew from that side. You knew exactly what I was thinking about.
I didn't even have to have a show in mind. I just knew if I said that, people would immediately remember. I mean, even Adventure Time, which had a huge, pretty, like, pretty, it encompassed a lot of plot threads, but certainly didn't close them all, and certainly did not seem like the show wanted to end right at that point.
Yeah, I've heard apparently they wanted more episodes, which at that point is really pushing it.
Yeah,
But,
well, I think
yeah.
I think it was a matter of they had the Gumball stuff they had been building up for like a season or two, but then they also had to close every other loop on the show, or at least all the pressing ones. So, to have a show that it starts up, the creator can say this is exactly how it ends, and there will be exactly no loose threads unless I want there to be loose threads. You know what I mean? Like there is something beautiful about that. People rave about Over the Garden Wall, but I don't think Over the Garden Wall would have done as well if it had been like a series.
This topic is a good segue for for what we have to talk about next.
Okay, why don't we move on to that then?
Yeah.
All right, I guess I'll spill the beans. Unfortunately, the Netflix show Tuca and Bertie has not been picked up for a second season by Netflix.
But hey, we're getting 3 more seasons of Big Mouth, not including the upcoming season 3 premiering this fall on Netflix.
Who are you, Nick Kroll? Is that who you are, Nick Kroll?
Yes, Kroll has been my last name all along. I can do all the funny voices. I was the pig on Sing.
Okay, well, let's talk about this. So there's been a lot of outcry about support for the show and being upset that it's been canceled. And I am right there with you in the sense that I 100% wanted a second season for the show. I think that there is something special about the show, even if I thought it was a little rough in places. I think I said even in that one, the recast, that I feel like they'd smooth out a lot of the issues in season 2. Like this is a show that I feel like would have a good strong season 2.
Mm-hmm.
So I want more of the show, but I do kind of feel like a lot of the discussion on Twitter has become really hyperbolic and really comparing it to things like Big Mouth and other things where I don't think they're applicable. Like, I think you need to look at what's going on at Netflix, first of all. They are like hemorrhaging money. They're hemorrhaging shows to Disney Plus and NBC streaming service, and I'm sure Warner Media is going to be taking some of their stuff back. Like
Friends.
Yeah, The Office. They're in a bad situation. A few years ago, even like last year, even when Tuca and Bertie was greenlit, Netflix was in a better position. Disney didn't announce Disney Plus yet. Their contracts were still going strong on a lot of their stuff. There wasn't as much competition in the space. Like they were still doing all right. And I mean, even if you go back a few years back, like when BoJack was greenlit, they could greenlight anything and keep it going. Like they were the kings because there wasn't any other streaming services except for like Hulu, and even then Hulu was kind of a different game in terms of like doing episodes right after they aired. So like they had the money, they had the clout, they had the only name in town. They could take all sorts of crazy risks. If you fast forward to now, Tuca and Bertie is a gamble, and it's a gamble that I think they would win. Like I think Tuca and Bertie is special and unique enough, and I think it's a good show, and it did really well critically, that it could and would certainly grow into like a BoJack type hit, and those shows would be great at cross promoting each other, essentially recommending people to one or the other.
What is this, a crossover episode?
But just because I think that gamble would pay off doesn't mean it's not a gamble. And I think if you kind of know anything about the industry and what gets greenlit and what gets season 2s and all that sort of stuff, it's like Netflix is not in the game of taking gambles. And I know it's funny to compare it to Big Mouth, but Big Mouth is a show that has pretty big names behind it. It's a show that's been around for 2 seasons, enough time to establish itself, and it's a show that certainly does, in some ways, I'm sorry, Monsters, pander to the lowest common denominator, which Tuca and Bertie, a reason why critics love Tuca and Bertie, a reason why you, the person listening to this, might absolutely like feel like your heart's story is being told through Tuca and Bertie, is because they are so very specific and niche. It's like not that the episodes can't be related to it unless you fall into the category of someone who relates to the characters or whatever. Like you certainly can, but like that connection you have is only made because they're able to get really specific. You're not going to have that strong a bond with a character from like How I Met Your Mother or something, because that's a show that's made to appeal to as many people as possible. Tuca and Bertie is not that. And so I know it kind of sounds like I'm like here being like, you shouldn't be disappointed that the show is ending, but that's not what I'm saying. That's not what I'm feeling. You should be disappointed if you are. I mean, it was a great show that was cut down in its prime, but I don't know. I guess it's just not as surprising to me. And I feel like Netflix has the raw numbers to back it up, and people are out here like, it has its fans. Why is it being canceled? And it's like Netflix isn't making merch of Tuca and Bertie. The only way they're making money off that show is in view count, which they can see. Just because 50,000 people are tweeting about it does not mean that the show is being viewed enough to be profitable currently. And I don't know. I guess I just wish more people would look into kind of what's going on with Netflix and why this decision was made instead of rushing off to like the easiest excuse or whatever. And I guess I also do want to point out that I'm not dismissing accusations of sexism by any glance. I don't believe the show was canceled strictly because it was a woman developing it. However, I do believe that like systemically the reason why, like if you look at the other Netflix cartoons, you have Matt Groening's show, right? Of course that's going to get renewed. Of course, it's Matt Groening's show. You have Nick Kroll's show. Like he's a well-known person. Because the industry is sexist, women don't have as many opportunities, and so I don't know. I guess I just kind of want to put that out there, and that I don't think this was like a direct effect of like, well, it's a woman-centric show, so we got to can it. I think it's more just it doesn't appeal to the lowest common denominator. It's not as popular yet because no show in its first season is going to be that popular, and Netflix has to let some things loose. All right, a diatribe over. I'm sorry.
I feel like Tuca and Bertie could have been more successful if Netflix staggered the release of season 1. If they either ordered more episodes or only released the first like 8 or so to begin with, then they could have had some that would come out later once it's established more of an audience and had more of a following, which they've been doing recently. Mm-hmm. And that could have put the show on the bit of a path to more success, especially with all the turmoil going on at Netflix right now. Yeah. Which for the past couple months has just been pushing Stranger Things, its only show, because it sells merch and like every single kind of merch under the sun. I'm not a dig at Stranger Things. I like the show, but it's clear that Netflix has been pushing it because they're kind of in a rough spot with, everything that's going on, as you've said.
And then the other thing, I think you might have pointed this out on Twitter, Nick, is just that Netflix hasn't really promoted the show very well.
Yeah. Someone looked at all the times the main Twitter account for Netflix had actually tweeted about Tuca and Bertie, and it was like 3 times. I mean, that's skewed because it does have its own Twitter. There's like several different Netflix Twitters, including one called Netflix is a Joke, which talked about how there's 3 more seasons of Big Mouth. So yeah, it's not even ironic anymore.
They also did put out a trailer for Tuca and Bertie on their YouTube channel, and I aggressively got recommended that show because I was into, quote, adult animation, as Netflix says. So I definitely I get recommended that a lot too. I also get recommended a lot of crap based on my Johnny Test viewings from all those months ago, Nick.
Well, I wouldn't have anything to do with that.
But yeah, no, like I think Netflix definitely could have done a better job. Like I'm not. What I'm saying is that I don't think the show did anything wrong. I just think that it was unfortunately greenlit in just a really bad time for Netflix, where they had to let stuff go. They're not going to let Stranger Things go. You know what I mean? Like they're not going to let well, BoJack already had episodes in production. They might let BoJack go after this season. I don't know.
I have not seen anything. I've seen barely anything of BoJack, which is a problem, and I intend to fix that sometime in the near future. But is that show like ramping up to an ending? Because it's been on for like 5-6 seasons, right?
It's been on 5 seasons. This will be its 6th.
Okay.
It's hard to say because things they don't get entirely reset, but there are arcs that happen each season. It could be the last one next season, but we still don't know like anything about it. There was a little bit of a setup at the end of the last episode, but that's about it. But yeah, no, I guess I just in my opinion, if you want like Well, if you want Tuca and Bertie to be picked up by another network, then I think just keep talking about it on Twitter. I think that will help. I think in terms of Netflix, which I don't know, I don't think they'd go back on their decision now, but if you wanted to try, just watch the show more. Like, increasing those numbers will help. I'm not saying Netflix is like a genius, that they're geniuses or anything, but they have the raw numbers. They do. Like, they can tell you exactly what is profitable. Now, they can't necessarily tell you what is going to be more profitable in the future. Like, a lot of people think that the show has a lot of potential. Netflix doesn't know that. But yeah, it's just it is sad, because it means Netflix is going the route of, like, basic cable channels, in the sense that they're going to just have to appeal to a lot more common, less specialty stuff. It's turning into less of an HBO and more of like an NBC or something.
So remember, if you're an adult creator that wants to pitch your cartoon to Netflix, make sure the art style resembles Family Guy and is cheap to produce, and includes a lot of funny jokes about sex, and then your show will be successful.
Well, don't forget also, I mean, there's a lot of stuff still coming out, like Craig McCracken's show.
Jorge Gutierrez, some people from like the Gravity Falls team.
Right. Oh God, please do not let another great Craig McCracken show die. Wonder already put like a real big emotional strain seeing that show end. So yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if many people felt the same way, but I really want Kid Cosmic. I keep hearing great things behind the scenes about that, so I hope just all the stuff they announced, like back in, I think, November, all the big like kid oriented creators doing stuff for Netflix, including like Alex Hirsch and whatnot. I really hope all of them like are successful and aren't we don't have to like talk about this again when in like 2 years another one of these shows gets canceled.
It's a numbers game. Like with Stranger Things and how popular that is, and Ozark and whatever Ted Bundy thing Netflix is doing, those get so much attention and publicity and viewership that people are going to keep renewing their Netflix subscription to keep watching those sorts of shows. And although Tuca and Bertie may have a vocal minority, there's just probably not enough people. It's just not worth it. Like, people might come across it and give it a glance, but like, that's not going to keep people paying for Netflix, unfortunately. And with something like Big Mouth, it's exactly that. It's lowest common denominator. People will put it on in the background. It's just a general digestible show. And Tuca and Bertie is a great show, don't get me wrong, and it's really sad that it's over, possibly. But it's, it's understandable why it's gone, and it's an artistic show that takes brain power and artistry to digest.
It is unfortunate, and it sucks that it's the way that it is. Like, just because we're talking about the phenomena doesn't mean we want it to be that way. It would be wonderful if we could live in this time when just these companies had endless resources and money to take every single gamble in the world, but it's just, I keep saying it, I know, but it's gonna be bad for Netflix, like, because it's a 1-2 punch of Disney Plus and Warner Media, both and the NBC service. They are both competition, and then they're also just taking stuff away from Netflix. Like, it's not just that Netflix is losing content, it's they're losing content and gaining competitors. It's just, Netflix has a name recognition, but it's not gonna have more of a name recognition than Disney.
Yeah, and to Nick's point, I think Netflix would rather have 15 animated shows with 1 season each than like 3 really good shows with 5 seasons apiece. Just so to give them the appearance of a larger library.
Which sucks, because Netflix is known for binge watching like seasons and seasons. But yeah, I mean, we'll see. We'll see what happens with Netflix in the future. But I do really hope that Tuca and Bertie finds its home, and if nothing else, I hope the creator is able to create something else, that does have longevity.
Right. I guess what anyone in the audience can do at this point is, if you like a show on Netflix, make sure that everyone else knows that. Just try to give it as much support as you can.
Well, don't worry, Nick, there'll be less competition to watch things on Netflix.
Yep.
They'll need more recommendations.
Yeah. Like that 12 Forever, that Cartoon Network pilot that was announced to be a Netflix show way back is actually coming out next week. I'm looking forward to that. Yeah.
And then didn't the studio behind that get bankrupt? So that's only going
There's
to be
been-
one season
oh,
too?
There's been some like really like shaky behind the scenes stuff that I've heard rumors about, like with the creator and you know, all that. And I hope the show just I hope the show can move on. I mean, it's called season 1, so that means they're trying to do more, but that doesn't mean anything. I don't know. I'm just hoping the show can bypass that somehow. We'll see.
Well, on the note of Netflix releases, and something a little more positive, we got a release date for Static Cling and Enter the Florpus.
Yeah, it's like a week apart.
Even though they like finished production a year apart.
Should we say what the release dates are, or should we just...
Yeah, Static Cling is...
The 9th?
Yeah, August 9th.
Yep, Friday.
And the Enter the Florpus is the
16th.
Yeah.
Yep.
Florpus?
Cool. Florpus. It's
Okay.
like that's what it's called.
By the way, if you're not following Jordan Vasquez on Twitter, oh God, follow him. He is so...
So funny.
This dude is so funny. Like,
No filter.
Yeah, but it's not even just that. It's I don't know. He's just really funny. Like, okay, so I guess I should mention that about 10 years ago, I made a video saying there would never be another Invader Zim anything ever again.
Because there were some really big like rallying cries in the late 2000s for another Invader Zim. I remember people walking around with Gur hats all the time.
The Hot Topic generation.
Yeah.
At that time, literally, Planet Sheen hadn't even come out. Like, the only thing that had ever gotten a spin-off on, or like a revival or anything on Nickelodeon was Rugrats. And that wasn't a revival, that was just a spin-off. Like, so it was just kind of, I don't know, it just seemed like impossible that to bring a show back on Nickelodeon. This was before, well, maybe it was around the time that Fairly Odd Parents was in its like first hiatus or whatever, but I don't know. It seemed so inappropriate for Nick that I never thought it would air on Nick again, and I guess that's still kind of true.
Nobody predicted the era of reboots.
No, I didn't predict the era of Netflix either. That's the thing. But yeah, no. Very excited for both of these. There's a trailer for Static Cling, and it's just everything I see about it is like, yes, this looks so right. This is about that. I couldn't believe they're actually, quote unquote, continuing the storyline of Rocco.
Right, yeah.
And it's just kind of seems like a clever way to bring them into the modern era and have it be kind of a culture shock. And then, of course...
They got blipped.
Of course.
We're bringing it back.
It is lovely that they decided to make the story be about finding Ralph and rebooting the Fatheads. That's
the sad thing is that this was likely written and boarded in like 2016, so it might be a tinge outdated considering how long they've sat on it.
Ooh. Oh no, I don't. Why you gotta bring me down, Nick?
just
God.
saying it, but honestly, everything I've seen about Static Clang, from the premise to just the animation, is good, and it's impressed me more than Enter the Florpus has. Because Rocko's Modern Life is a lot more specific to its era.
It was ahead of its time in some ways.
Oh yeah, definitely. That's why, like, when you see the trailer, it's like, oh, it's not like, oh man, Invader Zim is, it's not like an entirely new world. At least that show like experimented a lot with digital and 2D, 3D, like CGI integration.
Also, a lot more recent, like by about a decade.
Right. Yeah. Well, Invader Zim was still like 2001, and they like delayed. They didn't like air all the episodes until years and years later.
Right. But yeah, no. I mean, I'm still excited for Zim, but yeah, I agree. I mean, the thing is, I feel like Rocco would be easier to get wrong.
Yes.
Because like, God, if it had been like lame looking Flash animation for Rocco, that would be really sad.
Yeah.
So there was also Marvel news that we didn't talk about from last week. We'll go through it pretty fast.
All right, Phase 4 Disney. We got a bunch of release dates spanning from 2020 to 2021. We got confirmation on a bunch of the Disney Plus series that were rumored, like Loki, Hawkeye, WandaVision, What If, the animated series, and The Falcon and Winter Soldier. Also, we got a bunch of cool movie announcements, like Thor, I guess the fourth Thor movie now, Thor, Love and Thunder, and probably the biggest reveal of the night is that Natalie Portman's going to be a new Thor.
Yes, I'm so excited for that actor to come back into the MCU because she put her A game into the first two Thor movies.
Yay, Jane Foster, who nobody cares about, or at least I don't.
That was my least favorite part of Ragnarok. Why didn't they bring back all those great characters from the first two Thor movies?
I don't know if you're being sarcastic or not.
Yeah, I know. I'm really hard to read when I'm sleepy.
Are you being sarcastic?
Maybe.
This isn't the Sardana
Okay.
cast, Nick.
Look, I did not. I like Natalie Portman as an actress. I did not like Jane in the first two Thors.
Yeah.
But I will say that I do like that they are giving her another chance because she is important to those movies, whether you like her or not. And that plot thread really never got developed or finished. Like she was so integral to Thor 2, and then in all, she never appears in any Avengers movie. Aside for a picture in Endgame. And, well, I guess, sorry, excuse me. She appears in unused footage from Thor 2 in Endgame. But other than that, she's not in any Avengers movies. So I feel like with Taika Waititi behind it, I trust him. I trust him, and I trust the MCU that they'll give her a better role this time. So
Yeah, me too.
but I'm hoping. I'm excited for a Hawkeye show. It's a little weird because like he's been thrust in and out of retirement now like 3 times. So
I've never cared about Hawkeye. He's just been like always a background character, and I have zero interest in anything about him.
I like him. He's
Yeah.
cool. He's team dad. And
Okay.
real dad.
Remember when he became a ninja for like approximately 5 seconds in Endgame and no one ever brought it up again?
It was red on his ledger. There's too much of it. He's got to sacrifice himself.
Ugh.
He got really into anime.
God.
That's what he was binge. While his family was blipped, he was binge watching anime on Crunchyroll.
All right, well let's talk about the one thing that pertains to animation. What if? I want to badly see some animation at this show because I really want to know, like, if being a part of the MCU, even though it's technically like a UMCU, like, I want to know if they're gonna put actual effort into the show.
I think they will.
Well, I mean,
They're getting a lot of the Marvel actors.
Mr. NICKtendo, could you tell me anything about what Disney Marvel's current animation is like?
So imagine like anime inspired Ben 10 from like 2005, but you get rid of all of the shading, you get rid of all of like any like background detail. You give like all the designers like a week to design like an episode. You give them like 0 time to do anything. You give it to an incompetent overseas studio, and you just like really rush out all the scripts, and you got the Marvel Animated Cinematic Universe, or whatever you call it. Also, it also includes like 2 separate animated Spider-Man shows within the same universe, and I'm not really sure how that's supposed to work. It's a mess.
The point being that despite how marketable the MCU and Marvel is right now, they're definitely not they haven't historically put like their best effort into any anime. I mean, there's a reason why people keep mentioning Spectacular Spider-Man, because it might just be like the last good animated Marvel show.
Well, I mean, we are getting those Spider-Verse spin-offs in some capacity. I really don't know where those are going to come out, or, you know, I don't even know if...
Crackle.
Yeah,
They're going to come out of Crackle.
Maybe, we'll see. I mean, like, last time I checked, I thought Disney had the Spider-Man TV rights, but if these shows are about, like, Spider-Gwen and Spider-Ham, which, you know, all the better for it. But I did think that the interesting thing is, I thought Disney was going to kind of turn around with their Marvel animation, because about like a year ago, they reported that their division had completely shut down. And I'm like, oh, okay, so they're going to like revamp it and start doing like new stuff. But then like a couple months ago, Marvel Spider-Man getting a season 3, so it's like, oh, it's gonna be the same thing again. Yeehaw! I don't know.
Yeah.
I think this will be different because it's the first time that Marvel is directly integrating an animated show into the MCU, and they're bringing a bunch of voice talent. Like, I'm pretty sure they're bringing on Chris Evans to voice Captain America in this series.
Really?
Plus, it's a Disney Plus exclusive. So, maybe I'll stand corrected when it comes out, but I think that they are going to put effort into this.
Yeah, I mean,
No,
it's the first,
I want you to be right. I think they will too. I hope so, but there's definitely a chance they won't.
Yeah, that's fair.
Right.
Okay. So for the 50th cast, we want it to be as good and as big and as awesome as possible. So we are going to delay it a little bit. It is going to come out on the 12th of August, aka exactly 1 year from when the first recast episode came out. What topic will it have? Well, that's a juicy little mystery. Post your predictions in the server. But we're gonna make it big. We're gonna make it fun. We're gonna have some fun guests. We're gonna have a big birthday blowout of sorts.
Lots of cameos, I'm sure.
But on a more serious note, after the 50th episode, as I mentioned last week, we will be taking a hiatus of sorts for about a month, and we're gonna really talk about what works and what doesn't work about the recast and what we need to change. That sounds like really pessimistic and awful. But
well, guys, feel free to tell us what you like and don't like too, so that we can have some feedback on what to do.
Right. Yeah, we want to make the show as good as possible, and we've, after doing it for a year, I definitely noticed we're doing some things that maybe aren't the best. We're doing some things that work really well. So we want to retool the show. We want to reboot the show so that we have, we keep in the best possible content, and we get rid of some of the worst stuff. We want the show to also be like, we don't want it to be necessarily the longest podcast out there, but we want it to be the best and the biggest and the best that we can produce. So I know it's going to be sad that we're going to be leaving for a little while, but just think of how awesome it's going to be when we come back. So, and with that, we're going on a break for
a 5-minute break.
We'll be back. And we are back to talk about 2 Spider-Man episodes that deal with Mysterio. The first episode is from the famous 1967 adaptation of Spider-Man. And the episode is called Menace of Mysterio, titled after Amazing Spider-Man number 13, The Menace of Mysterio. And it is like a very, very direct adaptation. Like, lines are directly lifted from the comic. And basically the story is there is an imposter Spider-Man that it turns out to be Mysterio. And Spider-Man has to fight him and clear his name, and Mysterio is full of amazing tricks. This is one of the few 22-minute episodes of this show, if you can believe it. If you can believe this was 22 minutes. It felt like about 6. So, of course, if you don't know the 1967 Spider-Man show, you've definitely seen clips of it. You've definitely seen images of it. It's the really old-looking, kind of cheap-looking Spider-Man. They made a joke in the end credits of Into the Spider-Verse. They're referencing this show, the Spider-Man pointing meme, the Spider-Man sitting at a desk with a picture of Spider-Man meme, J. Jonah Jameson, like, yeah. I guess just a basic question to you guys: Do you feel this looks good or bad for 1967?
Ooh, I'm gonna err on the way of somewhere in the middle, because my only other frame of reference for 60s animation that I've actually delved into is Scooby-Doo Where Are You, which it's from 2 years later, but I will say a lot of the backgrounds are a lot better. There's a lot more going on, and even here they recycle the same shots from the theme song 3 different times, and I don't know if it was just going from watching new school cartoons to over this, but this gave really big radio play vibes where you could just listen to the audio and understand what was going on. And the audio itself, like everyone has these big, boisterous, like grand voices. It's like the audio can like stand on its own, and
Right, Spidey narrates to
yes.
himself a lot.
yeah, and there's a lot of policemen explaining what is going on. Policemen that all look identical, by the way. And also the music is like fantastic. Like the score is really good. It's like super jazzy,
very
like,
memorable.
If you everyone knows like the Spider-Man theme song to this specific show.
If you don't, if you've ever seen the 2007 classic, The Simpsons movie,
Spider
amazingly,
Pig. Spider Pig.
As it turns out, that Spider Pig song is not original to the movie. It's literally just it's just this theme song. But I mean, this was the theme song for Spider-Man for a long time. Like, it's referenced in the Raimi movies.
I know the Raimi movies have a great like Michael Bublé cover of this theme, which is fantastic, and y'all should listen to it.
It's a classic song, and then the lyrics are there's something. Listen, bud, he's got radioactive blood. That sounds like a threat more than anything. I feel like it's cheap in places, and then in other places, maybe impressive for its time. I mean, I will fully admit, I'm with you, Nick. I haven't seen a ton of stuff from this time. I mean, thinking about it, we did watch. I mean, there's the Peanuts special, which was around this time, right? 60s?
Yeah, but I believe so. I'm not quite sure, but that at least knew what its restraints were with its animation.
It was also a special too. I
And
mean,
it's also adapted from a comic.
Right.
I mean, I don't know about you guys, but like I used to watch Boomerang 24/7, so I have a pretty good frame of reference when it comes to like 1960s and like UPA and Hanna-Barbera animation.
All right.
It's clear that, like you mentioned, this is very inspired by the comic book art style, but in comparison to a bunch of other 1960s cartoons, it shares a lot of similar qualities when it comes to like the sound effects and the camera like shake rumble effect, and also just the animation style of using like wide panoramas and having a lot of stable shots. But I'd say that this is a bit on the weaker side. There were a lot of Hanna-Barbera shows that were cheap and still looked a lot better than this.
That's about how I feel. I mean, and I definitely wouldn't say that it was people not trying. It was probably just more of a budget thing.
Some of the poses are really weird. I know that people always reference the pointing pose meme, but just like some of his posture just looks so wrong.
Yeah. I mean, they were probably modeling it off the comics, but then that doesn't work. That doesn't always directly translate.
It's like everybody has scoliosis or something.
Yeah, it is kind of crazy seeing this compare, because like Spider-Man is, I mean, even among superheroes, he's like one of the most agile and flexible. Not because like other heroes fly or they walk or run, but like Spidey swings, and his whole thing is that he's dexterous and he's flexible and he's able to clean the walls. And it is kind of crazy seeing something like Far From Home or Spectacular Spider-Man, and then seeing this where it's like they clearly just weren't able to show that off. They try.
That's something I observed too. The speed is a lot slower. Although if there is like one interesting visual thing they do in it's Mysterio's face.
Yes.
When he speaks, they have the, I don't know what you call it, but
It's a wave. It's a wave. Yeah, it's a spectrometer wave.
Yeah, there's a spectrometer over his helmet, which is like a really cool detail. And I've never seen them do anything like that for any other incarnation.
Well, I will say, I mean, not to jump the gun too much, but I will say that is 100% something that the 67 version does better than the Spectacular version. There is no motion on him talking in Spectacular with the helmet on. Absolutely none whatsoever. There's not like a glow or anything. I think the 90s one did a glow, but the Menace of Mysterio, yeah, I don't know how you would do a spectrometer effect like that at that time period. I have no idea if that was just drawn by hand or if there was some sort of...
Yeah, it had to be.
I don't know. Maybe someone talked into like a... Yeah, I don't know. But either way, it looked cool.
Yeah, I agree.
And I will say, even though they don't achieve what they're trying to achieve with like Spider-Man's movements and stuff, the awkward movements are what make this show really hilarious unintentionally.
Oh yeah, no, it's definitely going like into my guilty pleasure kind of list, along with
right.
along with Truth or Square. But anyway.
Well, I wasn't groaning watching this. I was laughing. Like
No, it's still entertaining, and there's some like fun stuff in here. One of my favorite things is Spider-Man creates this web shield, and all these policemen fire bullets off of them, and they just like these really heavy like metal sound effects. Like this thing is like the shield he creates, even though it's out of webbing. It's like very heavy and like somehow detects, like reflects all these bullets.
Mm-hmm. Well, also I love the fact that the cops wait for him to spin the web of that before they start.
Oh yeah.
They immediately start shooting as soon as he has it fully constructed. Well, see, I feel like that goes back to like, so I not too long ago I was actually reading early Spider-Man comics, and I didn't get a chance to fully read it, but I skimmed through ASM 16, the one this is based on, and you'll notice in a lot of the early stuff, Spider-Man will do things like he'll create like a shield out of webbing, but like it's not in any way realistic, because it's like it'll just show him kind of spinning it a little bit and then bam, he's just got it, because it's comic books. You don't need to show the in-between process of it. You know, it's a little weird, but you accept it because it's a comic. But then when you try to translate that directly into like a moving medium, you have to make it a little more realistic, or do something to it. Maybe just don't show it. But to show it the way they do, it just looks so hokey and weird, which again is hilarious, just hilarious, but it's not supposed to be.
In the episode, Mysterio insults Spider-Man by saying that he's big talk, small action, which is a very accurate description of the show.
Nick, I was thinking the same exact thing.
Another great visual thing is Spider-Man infiltrates Mysterio's hideout, which is labeled under a big sign that just says television studio. Like, it doesn't even have a name. It's just called television studio. I think it was kind of creative when they like stumble upon the Wild West set that they're trying to film like in the background. Like, if that was staged and set up a little bit better, it could have been like a great moment.
It was just really funny because like, so Spider-Man and Mysterio are having this fight in the next room over, and we cut to this in production movie, and like they're like, what was that? And then someone's like, a sonic boom, and it's like, what? Like what
That's not in the
boom?
Script.
Like, yeah. And then they're just kind of like, they shrug it off. No one investigates the first time. They're like, whatever, we're just filming a movie here. What do we need peace and quiet for? And then the next time they're like, oh, somebody should go check that out. It's like, you think? Okay, so there is a joke in this, like, that is an intentional joke, and I actually found it funny, where was it Liz? Betty. Betty works at the Daily Bugle, right? It's Betty.
Yeah. Betty Brown.
Yeah, Betty. She's like, looks like they were both born under the same sign, and then Peter's like, yeah, the dollar sign. I found that actually funny. Just the delivery on that. I might have the characters flipped, but the delivery on that, like the pacing and the space, the awkward space between the setup and the response was really funny. And then also, like, I love that Jameson's like, he just rips the bill in half.
Oh yeah.
He pays Mysterio.
So he's like says Mysterio, it's like, I'll give you this to begin with, and then I'll give you the rest when you catch Spider-Man. But instead of giving him like different cuts, he just like splits the bill in half and gives half to Mysterio.
It also implies, so Mysterio calls up Jameson and says that he can get rid of Spider-Man for a fee. That's like the story. And you would, I guess this implies that Jameson kind of put a hit out on Spider-Man for under $100. Like, it was only one bill, so it was $100 or less.
I mean, he isn't like an aspiring actor. That's not chump change for a guy who has a side job as a barista.
What?
Jake Jonah Jameson, though, he was probably my favorite part of the episode. I thought like he was genuinely funny and how absurd he acted.
Yeah, there's some great faces on Jameson.
It's hard to screw up J. Jonah Jameson. Like, he's just an angry, bitter man with one goal in mind, and if you just play him up, he's fantastic.
He's Mr. Krabs.
Right.
Now, if we're comparing this and the Spectacular episode, which we'll do more in a bit, this one has J. Jonah Jameson, the other does not.
It does have
Ooh.
Norman Osborn,
It does have Norman Osborn.
but he's not Raimi Norman Osborn.
No,
Not
you know.
quite.
You know, I'm somewhat of a fan of
God.
this episode myself.
Wow. Yeah, that didn't take a while to get to.
Yeah, I know.
But the Menace of Mysterio does have something else the Spectacular doesn't have, and that's Spock.
Yeah, Mysterio is literally Spock without the helmet on.
It's like the right time period too, right?
Yeah,
Like,
the 1960s. That's when like OG Star Trek was on.
he's got
Yes,
pointy
the only
ears.
other thing that happened in the '60s, OG Star Trek.
I mean, it's funny that they reference something that is actually still knowledgeable today.
I guess something else we can point out too is the voice acting, because like I don't think that there was any voice direction on the show, because I mean, first off, Spider-Man sounds like a 50-year-old dude. And,
Yeah, he's supposed to be 16.
Yeah,
which
and
didn't
everyone
make
just
any
sound
sense
like
to
every
me.
male character, the cops, Mysterio, pretty much everybody but J. Jonah Jameson sound exactly the same. Like you can interchange their voice lines, just like, say, Spider-Man is on the loose, and that could be like any character talking.
Yeah. There's a bit at the beginning where when Spidey wakes up to hear that there's like an imposter Spider-Man, he's one of the first things he thinks of is that he's like a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde situation, which I found to be an odd line, but that line is also in the comic. So I mean, to be fair, if you're bitten with a radioactive spider, it is only issue 13. And this is only the third episode, I want to say, of the show. So, you know, maybe you would think that that's also... Maybe spiders have split personalities. We don't know. How would we know? Oh, goodness. It doesn't feel like 22 minutes. I don't know if it's the reused animation or just the fact that it moves so... I think it's the fact that it moves so slowly, actually. Because it doesn't feel like it has enough story beats to be fully 22 minutes.
They also dropped the fake Spider-Man thing, like, early on. As soon
Right.
as Mysterio shows up, that plot thread goes somewhere else.
Yeah. Yeah.
Don't you love too how he just kind of like poofs in and poofs out of the Daily Bugle office?
Yeah. Well, also, let's not forget that in this episode, there's just nothing explained about his powers. He's like, I'm a stuntman. And it's like, okay, well, how did you make a gas that dissolves his webbing? How did he imitate Spider-Man? How did he climb the walls?
Yeah.
like I know, I mean, they weren't going to answer that in the 67 cartoon, but it is just kind of funny that I guess it's like, you kind of get used to supervillain things like not being explained in shows like this, so you just kind of accept it. But it is funny that they really just don't explain, like, him being a stuntman explains some things, I guess, but like not all of them. He's got magnet boots. Which also in the comic. I mean, so something that this has in common with both Spectacular and Far From Home is that there's a scene in which Mysterio goes invisible. Now, in this edition, there's just like a little bit of smoke that pops up, and Spider-Man, instead of using his spider sense, randomly punches.
I mean, that's what I would do.
Smoke. Yeah, I mean, it's not a bad plan. It just looks stupid as heck. Like, it's like, one of these times my punch will connect. And then Mysterio just keeps talking so that he knows exactly where he is. And the effect is dumb too, because it's like it's just like a little bit of smoke on Mysterio. I guess it's assumed that Spider-Man can see less than we can, but it's just like, it's funny. In the comic, Peter mentions that his spider sense doesn't work. Like there's some sort of jammer or something, which also doesn't make much sense, but at least they explain that. It's much better in Far From Home and Spectacular when he uses his spider sense. Like that's a really cool moment in both of those iterations that is just instead replaced with Spider-Man randomly flailing his arms into the darkness.
I want to say,
like, what did you guys think about the whole tape recorder part? Because like he recorded the
yeah.
confession, and then Mysterio's like, "I'll grab that from you," and he's like, "Not if I can help it."
I cannot imagine a pocket recorder in the 60s would have been cheaper.
He had like a Batman style tracking device too that he put on his cape.
oh my god, yes!
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so first of all, the spider tracers they're a thing. They have been a thing ever since very early in the comics. Like that is a thing. But usually they're like really small and inconspicuous. I mean, they're still spiders, which I guess is not super inconspicuous. But in this, the thing is like the size of your fist, and he
Yeah,
just
you'd
like
feel it weighing down on the cape.
he throws it on Mysterio's cape. But it's not just that Mysterio would notice this. He does it right in front of Betty and Jameson. Like, not in Spider-Man costume, just Peter Parker's throwing random bug sigils on people.
He put a bug on him.
Actually, it's an arachnid, so
Oh,
I'm something of a scientist myself. Anything else? Like,
slow paced. The action
Yeah.
is funny to watch.
yeah, but I mean, it's it's still unmistakably Spider-Man. Like, all the hallmarks are still there. You know, him
Right.
him webbing up Jameson is like that's like a tradition, basically.
I'm disappointed that this wasn't one of those the later '60s Spider-Man episodes by Ralph Bakshi.
Ralph Bakshi,
Actually,
yes.
yeah, he directed a couple of those to get his career started, and he
Well, yes.
well, he
Tell
tried
it.
to. So
Yeah.
as far as I know, he recycled a ton of animation to
Yup.
save cheap, and he used animation from another show he had worked on about like Robin Hood in space or something.
Yep.
So I really want to see that someday, just to see like what it's like.
If we weren't already doing this, I definitely would be doing that recast, and we should at some point in the future do that, just to see like, just literally reused animation for an entirely different show. How does that happen? How does that work? I'm sorry, Nick. I didn't mean to steal your thunder.
No. It's just such a really interesting story, especially for like a property like Spider-Man.
Right. But I mean, I don't know. I feel like this could have been cheaper. I feel like there definitely was at least some attempt. And honestly, like some of the web swinging doesn't look bad, which is probably why they recycled it a lot.
Right, yeah. The interesting thing to me about the web slinging is that it's the webs are colored black. This was before they really started to make them white to make them more distinguished from everything else.
Right. They also reused the like most noticeably this one shot of him swinging directly towards the camera.
Yes. Yep.
Which ostensibly is just making Spider-Man bigger. Oh goodness. But yeah, no, I mean, I would recommend this thing. Like, honestly, maybe not. Maybe there's a better episode. Maybe like an 11-minute episode would be better recommendation. But honestly, just for a novelty, for a laugh, especially if you get together with some friends, like the '67 Spider-Man is definitely like schlocky and enjoyably bad. Not like, it's not boring. It's not anything amazing. Like, I don't think it's like secret genius, but you will definitely laugh and get a kick out of it if you're the kind of person who enjoys like that kind of media, or making fun of that kind of media.
I think the best thing to come out of this 60s Spider-Man show is that one of the first like reanimated collabs came out of it, of an 11-minute episode about the Vulture. I think it's on like Dailymotion or Vimeo, so definitely check that out. It's from a couple years ago, but it's hilarious. Lots of great stuff there.
Let's lay down the blueprints for the Spectacular Spider-Man episode, Blueprints.
Show me the blueprints.
Okay, so in this season 2 opener of Spectacular Spider-Man, there's a whole lot of stuff going on that I did not remember, because I hadn't seen this show since it aired on Kids WB. I've been meaning to rewatch it, but I haven't. There's stuff with Peter kissing Gwen, stuff with Venom, stuff with the Green Goblin, stuff with Harry. Dude, I don't know. There's just like, check every character in the Spider-Man universe that's well known, and Peter's got something weird going on with each one of them that is not explained in this episode, but that's fine. It's meant to be serialized. Anyway, the main story is that there is a new villain in town named Mysterio, who doesn't like technology, but surprise of all surprises, he uses robots and illusions to fight Spider-Man and secretly steal a bunch of material for things that I assume are for the series finale.
So I want to ask Monsters, since he had absolutely no recollection or experience with any other episode of Spectacular Spider-Man, what did you think of kind of being thrown into this world?
Well, I guess I'll start with some context. My friend Mike, he's a huge Spider-Man fan. He actually has a tattoo of like the Spider-Man logo with the web on his arm. He's recommended this series to me countless times and talked about how faithful it is to the comics and how it ended far too soon, and He's shown me some clips here and there of it before. Like, I've seen some clips of Spidey fighting Venom and like Sandman and a few other things. But this was the first full episode I've actually seen, aside from a few, very brief clips. And I've gone on to no end about how I love like the aesthetic and vibe of mid 2000s action cartoons. And this totally matches that. Just kind of the semi-serious tone, with like a focus on cool action and character development moments, but it also has some lighthearted comedy too. And I think this special, well, it's not even a special, the season 2 opener of Spectacular Spider-Man was really cool. I really had a fun time watching it.
Okay. Yeah, I agree with Pieguy. Even though the last time I saw the show was only like 2 years ago, maybe even less, I also kind of forgot that, oh yeah, there's actually a ton of like just continuity that's thrown at you when you start the episode. I forgot how much stuff was going on, but that's,
Yeah.
I do feel like I remember season 2 of Spectacular Spider-Man did start to feel a little bit overblown. And the good thing is they did some smart things in some cases, like the stuff that Mysterio is getting for the Master Planner. That isn't actually dragged out till the end of the season, which is good. Yeah, that was my fear at first, that was going to be like the end. But no, they do a ton of like other stuff in between, and
well, yeah. Just to list it all off, it's Venom is at the very beginning of the episode. He has like a dream about him, and he goes and checks up on where Eddie Brock used to live. He kissed
Gwen Stacy.
What's her name? Yeah, Gwen Stacy.
Yeah, that and Venom were like the season 1 finale. Yeah,
the Connors, presumably Kurt Connors, have him. Like, they're debating on whether he should be a part of some sort of like research thing with Norman Osborn, and Mysterio himself was apparently a minor character in a previous episode, and he's stealing things for an unseen character. That's like 6 or 7 things that's connected to other episodes that are not in any way explained. I mean, obviously jumping in the beginning of the second season, you expect something like that. Maybe you'd want to keep like the first episode a little more pure because you might have new fans jumping in there.
Right.
But, I understand it is what it is. And it's only 26 episodes. It's not going to be hard for me to go back and just rewatch the whole thing. And, I mean, really the highlight of this to me was mostly the action, to be honest. Because Mysterio's his storyline, I'll be honest, I think he kind of had a better story in the other one. Not that was like a well-written story, but like, impersonating Spider-Man, trying to get rid of Spider-Man, that sort of thing, to me worked better than his just kind of generic shtick of like, I hate technology, even though that's not what he's really doing. But I guess, it is funny because that Mysterio is a lot more in line with Mysterio from Far From Home.
But Stan Lee was in this one.
That's true. Stan Lee had a cameo.
That was pretty rad.
Pretty big cameo.
I think that's his only one in Spectacular Spider-Man, as far as I know. I'm pretty sure they saved it. I don't know why they saved it for this specifically, but it's a good moment.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure they gave him creator credits. Like in the opening, they say created by Stan Lee and what's his name, Steve Ditko.
Yeah, that was cool. I will say, okay, on the art style, the snow effect started to annoy me.
Oh yeah, especially when the snow doesn't you don't see it accumulate on the ground. Like so many shots just have this snow filter over it and doesn't affect the characters. Now I will say, Spectacular Spider-Man is great in how it has like
it has seasons, right?
Yeah, it has like the seasons change as the show goes by. Like it starts the beginning of the show is the first day of school, and now we're at like season 2. And it's right after Thanksgiving, so it's snowing. I think I always love shows that you can actually track them by like, as the seasons change. It's not like another Spider-Man show, which I pointed this out about, where there's a Halloween episode and the very next one, which like is a follow-up like within the story, but the next episode is like, man, there's a heat wave in New York. Which, I've been to New York in November, and there ain't no heat waves, so just saying.
And something tells me the 1967 show didn't quite do that either.
Yep.
Quite
Yeah.
have.
You know what? I feel like they could do a Spider-Man Christmas special. That would be really funny.
The other thing that struck me, like design-wise, was the pupils are huge.
Yeah. Apparently every character has a mole too.
Yeah, there's some sort of like cancer in the water in this.
It's from the green mist.
Yeah, I got used to the pupils. It's just a design choice that like you just kind of take a little bit to get used to. Also, Peter has a tag sticking out of his shirt, which
That's
kind
a
of
cool
annoys
detail.
me.
You don't like that?
No, it's like rip that thing off, dude.
I feel like that's a cool detail. What did you think? Because I know that there's other shows that you're not as fond of that have kind of like a rough, sketchy outline style.
What are you referring to?
You know. What did you think about that?
No, like like I said, it kind of took a little bit. I watched this episode twice. I watched it the other day, and I watched it today, and I wasn't bothered by it. It just kind of struck me, I guess just because we don't really have shows that look like this much anymore. And even amongst that time period, it definitely has some of the blood of like that mid-2000s action show, but it doesn't look exactly like anything else.
Right.
Which is cool. I mean, actually, if anything, and this is a weird comparison, the redesign they did on Batman the Animated Series with like the big pupils, it kind of looks like that. Yeah, in terms of the story, I mean, I do feel like it is kind of tied up a lot in that overarching plot to the point where there really isn't much here outside of that. Like, unless I'm wrong or missed something.
Yeah, one thing that I was surprised about going back to this is that it's only like 3 or 4 scenes long. Like with Mysterio, like Mysterio shows up,
Yeah.
Spider-Man fights him, Spider-Man fails, then he goes to school and he figures out an idea of how to face him again. And then the whole like rest of the second and third act is just the fight. Like he intercepts Mysterio when he's taking technology and traces him back to his lair, and there's a huge thing that goes on with that.
And then there's the Gwen subplot, and then there's also, I wouldn't even consider this a subplot, but the fact that Aunt May is recovering from a heart attack.
There's a ton of, oh man, I just keep forgetting like how much the first season of Spectacular Spider-Man snowballs with all the Venom stuff and relationship drama.
Well, that's the thing. I would say the Gwen thing is kind of stands out to me the most in the fact that it just doesn't go anywhere in the episode.
Right.
He mentions it, and I'm sure it's important in the overarching story, but like he does spend a little bit of time on it, like a little too much time thinking about it for someone who doesn't do anything about it in the episode. Also, does Peter Parker only hang out with girls? I mean, that's cool for him, but
Yes.
I thought he was a loser.
Is there no Ned in this series?
There's Harry. Harry Osborn is there, but I'm pretty sure
He's on his
like,
checklist. He's on his
Yeah.
list, which we
Right,
don't even.
yeah.
I don't even know why he's on the list. He's
oh
just
no,
on
it's
the list.
they found out that Harry was the Green Goblin because he was overdosing on not drugs.
Right.
There was a
superhero
Miles in this
juice.
episode, not Miles Morales, though.
Yes, that threw me off for a second.
Yeah. But yeah, no, that fight scene with Mysterio was really top notch, like really good stuff. It's like Mysterio uses a mix of robots and illusions, and something we didn't talk about in Menace of Mysterio is that in Menace of Mysterio, and in Blueprints, there is a fake out with a train.
Right.
It's all connected.
I didn't happen to see anything with a train in ASM 13. I wonder if that happens in like a later Spider-Man issue because like I don't know, there has to be some reason why it shows up. And it's funny because it's like in Menace of Mysterio in the 67 cartoon, his foot gets stuck in the tracks.
Oh yeah.
It's so kind of pathetic. Like
I can't watch.
And then he uses his web to like impossibly physics the rail away from his foot, probably causing the train to be like doomed to go railing off the track or something.
There's a weird nitpick I have with the Spectacular episode that it came to me, and it's just kind of funny to think about. So Spider-Man's like, if I'm gonna defeat Mysterio, I need to like only focus on my spider sense. So he blindfolds himself, even though he's already wearing a mask. He can just like close his eyes.
Well, it's a visual medium.
I know.
No.
Yes, I understand. It's some more symbolic, but it just seemed kind of weird that he's putting like 2 masks over himself.
I guess it's better than him flipping his mask around.
Yeah. No, that would have been kind of cool. That actually would have been a stronger visual simplifier.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Well, because that Blueprints has that in common with Far From Home, is that they both go with the Spidey sense. They don't go with flailing your arms randomly, sadly. And yeah, as I was saying, there's a projection of a train that comes and runs right into Spider-Man, but it's just a projection.
Yeah.
But what's cool about Mysterio is that it's a combination of robotics and projection, so it kind of keeps Peter on his toes in terms of like what can he just phase through and what does he actually have to fight. And I felt like they did a really good job of kind of alternating the two of them. And I think Mysterio even has a line about that, like Peter's like, I don't have to fight the holograms, and he's like, but what is a hologram? There's also these weird little demon things, which must be a reference to something, because I watched another Mysterio Spider-Man episode, I believe from the 2017 series. It was very not good. It was a Christmas special, and there's also these little flying demon bat robot things.
They're the bats from the opening to Scooby-Doo, Where Are You?
But yeah, no, that whole fight scene is really cool, and both the Menace of Mysterio and Blueprints end up in a saloon.
Yeah.
Yep. This time there's no active filming going on, because I feel like that would be a little too ridiculous. I mean, definitely Menace of Mysterio, the 67 cartoon, is going for comedy in a lot of ways. I guess because they just cannot go for action. Like, they can't rely on their action chops alone, so they go with a lot of goofy sound effects and stuff. But Spectacular is surprisingly doesn't have any comedy in it.
There's some moments.
A pancake flops on his head. I don't know what else. What other jokes are in this episode?
Aunt May, you're recuperating from a heart attack. You shouldn't be making pancakes.
Yeah, this episode falls into the lower tier of Spectacular Spider-Man automatically because it does not include Flash Thompson, who is undisputably the best character on that show.
Really?
I'm not joking. Go back and watch it. He goes through some really great character development.
Okay.
I don't know. I have a soft spot for the bully with a heart of gold character trope.
Both of these episodes also have Peter fighting Mysterio on a bridge, on the Brooklyn Bridge.
Yeah, that's kind of why we wanted to pick him.
Which also happens in the comic originally. And also in that I think it was 2017 Spider-Man. In the other episode I watched, apparently Mysterio died by falling off the Brooklyn Bridge.
Oh, wow.
I didn't finish watching it, so I feel like he probably was still alive. But
why is it called Blueprints?
Because Mysterio steals blueprints.
I thought he just stole the tech.
I think he mentioned something about blueprints.
It's also providing the structure for the rest of the season.
There's even a reference to that in the one of the classroom scenes, which is the professor's like, "Oh, we got to go over all the topics for the semester." And
Nature versus nurture.
Yeah, those are all like season 1 episodes.
Law of attraction. Cool. Yeah, it sounds like they're all based on like different subjects in school, I guess.
I know the like mission statement or like some like motto for the show was for Spectacular was it being the education of both Peter Parker and Spider-Man. So that's where the titles come from.
This was an educational show, right?
It was very educational. It tells me how you make a great superhero show.
So Nick, you mentioned that the show starts on the first day of school.
Yeah, kind of.
Then why in this episode does Peter mention that he made his suit for spring weather?
Oh, because the first episode isn't like he gets bitten by the spider. It's he's been Spider-Man for like a couple months.
Okay.
He's like the episode starts out with like, this is how I spent my summer vacation. So he had to make it like beforehand. I don't know. I feel like Spectacular really gets the short end of the stick because it just kind of falls in. Like everyone wants Disney to or Marvel or whoever to bring it back, but there really aren't any like really super distinguishing qualities behind it besides it just being like the people who worked on it, and it just being like a really great retelling of classic Spider-Man stuff.
Pretty cool voice cast too, like Ben Diskin and John DiMaggio and Stanley.
Yeah, I'd say Josh Keaton's Spider-Man is probably like my favorite like incarnation of the character, like on screen. Well, like the way he performs it, I don't know. At least animated. I don't know. I always gotta think about that because the the Raimi movies are not that recent in my memory. So.
Okay. So, do we have any viewer comments?
Yeah, we have a few. I guess I'll read them off. All right, from Mav, they say, I haven't watched The Menace of Mysterio, but it'll probably be good ironically. However, I have seen blueprints, and I remember enjoying it. Mysterio's character was fun, the Stan Lee cameo was great, and the acting is more than likely far better.
Got a psychic here in the comments section.
Maybe it's a misdirect. Using some illusion powers. All right, so we got that. And then we got a simple one from ToonJ723, and they say, love how both episodes have a Wild West bar scene in them.
Yep, and that's also in the original comic, of course.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Monsters. Which episode did you like better?
I prefer the Spectacular Spider-Man episode. Like I mentioned before, I just prefer the vibe. It very much does remind me of those action cartoons that I used to really dig. And having not seen this before, it hooked me in. I believe the hype. Yeah, I think it had pretty ambitious animation for it being a TV show, and I think where the animation really shines is the fact that it knew its limitations. Like, there's some spots where you can kind of see that it's wonky, but it did what it did well within its constraints. Yeah, with the 60s episode, it's very much a product of the time. Jake Jameson was cool, but otherwise it was pretty slow paced. Everyone's voice sounded the same, and I mean, I guess it was good for what it was, but there was nothing really in particular that made it stand out to me.
I'm gonna have to go with blueprints from Spectacular Spider-Man. I would say that, oh, it's Spectacular Spider-Man, so I don't have to say anything else, but I will, because I love you guys. I care.
Aww.
Anywho, I don't know. It's just, well, okay. It's kind of obvious because one was produced within the past like 12 years, and the other was produced 50 years ago.
There's only a 40 year time difference.
Yeah. So technology has evolved. Storytelling techniques have evolved a bit. One thing that I think played in Spectacular's favor that I didn't mention before is that it split up the two parts of the Mysterio story, which what we saw in Menace and Mysterio were the framing of Spider-Man and then the whole reveal with Mysterio. Spectacular has an entirely different episode where Spider-Man is framed, and they do a cool thing with it where that's like the first that's the episode where he gets the black suit, so you can distinguish who's the fake Spider-Man and who's the real Spider-Man, which is really cool. But that's a different episode. And I'd say like this, like compared to other Spectacular episodes, this one has a lot of like heavy lifting to do, coming off the heels of like the big season finale and all the plot threads it sets into motion, both from the past season and for this season. Like there's even stuff like that's hinting to like Venom returning. Just a lot of little things that we barely even touched on. Some things that the show wouldn't even like get to. Like there's a quiet moment with Norman Osborn's wife that we just see her like eating dinner off to the side.
Yeah.
And apparently she was going to be a character in the next season, but they did not. They then Disney bought Marvel, and they were like, we want a Spider-Man show. So they burned off season 2 on Disney XD, which makes the rough start that this has even worse.
So I probably never saw season 2 because I only ever watched it on Kids WB.
Oh yeah,
that
might be the case.
Hmm.
I remember they were like advertising season 2, and they were like rerunning the '94 Spider-Man show. That's how I was first exposed to it. But
That's how you were bitten.
yeah, that's how the bug got me, or the arachnid.
Okay. Okay, so I did the viewer poll, and we got 42% said Spectacular Spider-Man, 9% said 1967, and 49% said they haven't seen either one or both. So
Aw.
Spectacular winning in a landslide.
Y'all gotta watch Spectacular. Come on.
And it is on Crackle. I should explain Crackle because not everyone knows it, but it is a free streaming service with ads. It's owned by Sony now. It used to not be, but I don't know, something happened. And yeah, there's a lot of like Sony material on there. I don't know really about anything else, but I know that at least this and one other version of Spider-Man are on it. And yeah, I mean, you got to watch ads, which sucks, but it's free. So
Also, it's in HD, which sometimes I think the Blu-ray is the only other place where you can get the show in HD, and maybe like iTunes or something, but it's not actually everywhere. I don't think Amazon has it in HD, which is interesting.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and I think that might be like on Prime too.
Yeah, they've got the critic on Sony Crackle. And
Nice.
Dilbert and Jackie Chan Adventures, your favorite. Men in Black, the animated series.
I just looked up the recommended for Sony Crackle, and they have Zombieland, and that sequel's coming out in October.
Oh yeah.
So you should
Yo,
watch that.
that's exciting. Anyway, back to my conclusion. I really thought that I would be picking Spectacular Spider-Man, but judging them as just individual episodes, which is not entirely fair to Spectacular, but just looking at it as I wanted to watch a Mysterio episode, and so I watched these two episodes. I honestly have to say I got a little more enjoyment out of the 67 version. I'm sure when I watch Spectacular Spider-Man, as I will, like, I will appreciate this episode a lot more. But I do feel like, just kind of thinking about it, it's not just that it has connections to other episodes, but it has connections that don't really do much for this as an individual episode. Like, it's not like he mentions about Gwen and then he does something. He just doesn't. You know, they mention reconsidering him for this thing, and then they say that he's got it, but like that doesn't, I feel like that could have happened in the next episode. Like I don't know, I guess I just don't feel like the connective tissue was particularly great in this episode without context, and I don't know that it would be that much better with context, to be honest, but I'm sure the show in general will be really good. But yeah, bizarrely enough, I am saying I got more enjoyment out of the 1967 Spider-Man than Spectacular, although Spectacular is definitely very well made.
Wow, fake fan. Okay.
Bet you didn't see that coming.
I could sense it.
So for trivia, you guys will be playing as a team, okay? Buddy system, so talk things out amongst yourselves.
All right.
I am going to be saying the name of a Spider-Man storyline from the comics, and you have to tell me if this is a real name or a fake name.
Okay. I know nothing, so this will be interesting.
I know. I have a vague amount of information, so let's see how this goes.
All right, use your best judgment. Number 1, the 6 Arms Saga.
Is there a villain that has 6 arms, or maybe there's an attachment that Spider-Man gets where he has 6 arms?
Actually, you're right on the money on the second one. He goes through a mutation at some point.
So is that correct?
I feel like it's a little on the nose. It might be, because, I don't know, saga names gotta be more flashy. Like, just, you know, I'm probably overthinking this, but I'm gonna have to say a no on that. I don't know if you agree with me, Monsters.
Listen, put yourself in the mind of Mr. Excelsior himself. Do you think he would name something the 6 Arms Saga?
Do you think Stanley actually wrote this? I'm saying no. I think 6 Arms is too on the nose. I can't wait to get proven wrong.
All right, I guess I'll latch on to your answer.
All right. You guys are 0 for 1. It is real. It is issues number 100 to 102. Peter Parker has had enough of being Spider-Man. Peter feels miserable about all the anguish he had to endure when his best friend Harry Osborn has become a junkie. His close friend Captain George Stacy died in his arms, and Gwen Stacy wrongly blamed him for his father's death. Peter has a fatal thought. For Peter Parker to live, Spider-Man must die. So I guess Spider-Man 2 is like vaguely based off of this in the sense that it's Peter's powers going away.
Oh, I thought that was like
Oh wait,
Spider-Man No More.
wait, hang on. No, never mind. Let me keep reading here. Spidey brews up a chemical cocktail intended to terminate his spider powers, but he wakes up with 6 arms. You were right, Nick. I mean, this is 6-armed Spider-Man. Oh man, imagine that. You know, your friend's a junkie. Gwen Stacy's dad died, and she blames you for
I hate
it.
when that happens.
And then worst of all, when you try to get rid of your spider powers, you end up with 6 arms.
Oh no.
This is why Spider-Man caught on, because it was very relatable, you know?
Yeah.
Spider-Man was the everyman.
It's like that one guy with that mutation is like, man, this hits home.
Okay. All right. You ready for number 2?
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Alien Costume Saga.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's. I think that's what the black suit is called. Unless you're like messing with one word.
Spidey's black suit is called the alien suit.
Yeah, it's the alien. What do you say? Alien costume?
Alien Costume Saga.
Okay, I'd buy it.
Again, I will latch on to Nick's answer.
Oh.
You are correct. Following the Secret Wars, Spider-Man returns to Earth from Battleworld wearing a black costume. He discovers the black costume creates its own webbing and can disguise itself as street clothes according to his mental commands.
Wow.
Could they not think of a better name than Battleworld?
Well, could they not think of a better name than Alien Costume Saga? Like,
You have to admit, if you're a kid and you see something in like the 1960s called the Alien Costume Saga, you'd buy that.
You're 1 for 2. Okay. Craven's Big Tranquilizer.
Who's Craven? Wes Craven?
Wes Craven.
Is there a character in this comic series based on the director of Nightmare on Elm Street?
I don't know if you're joking or not, Monsters.
I don't know. Comics are weird.
Oh my god, Nick, tell him, please.
I know about Craven's Last Hunt, but Craven is a jungle hunter who comes to America to hunt Spider-Man. I said jungle because I didn't know if he's from like Africa specifically. I don't remember. Also, it's midnight.
So he's like Amazon Kevin. Leave me a comment if you know who Amazon Kevin is.
Amazon.com. Is this podcast sponsored? Is this podcast an Amazon affiliate?
Oh my god, just answer the question.
I say false.
Well, I mean, if he's a jungle hunter, wouldn't he have a tranquilizer?
He would not. But it's Craven's Last Hunt. That's the big Craven story. Craven's Big Tranquilizer this seems a little bit.
All right, fine. I guess
made up.
I guess it's made up.
You're correct.
Okay.
I love the joy you got out of that, Nick.
It's really good.
Yeah. There's Craven's Last Hunt. There's also, what is it?
Craven's Big Score.
What? There's Craven's First Hunt.
Mm.
Okay. Spidey meets the president.
Oh yeah, that happened. The Barack Obama crossover. Yeah.
Did you just say Barack Obama?
Barack Obama.
Well, Ash. No. Nurse Joy. Ooh, la da. No. All right. I guess that did happen. Sure. It's real.
Yeah, you're right. It did. By the way, this is off the Wikipedia page, Spider-Man storylines. Even though I think this is only one issue, it's still labeled the Spider-Man storyline. So, yeah, Spidey meets the president. The story begins with Peter Parker standing amongst other reporters on the presidential inauguration of Barack Obama, photographing this historic moment. Suddenly, a limo pulls up and reveals another Obama. The Secret Service does not know what to do, so Spidey quickly
I want to see the Spider-Man pointing each other, but with the 2 Obamas.
It's the chameleon. Oh goodness. Oh, and Spider-Man sits on top of the Washington Monument, and which is the last time Spider-Man and the Washington Monument will ever interact. Okay.
All right, what's next? Do we have another one?
Yep, we're 3 for 4.
Okay. The spider bites twice.
Now here's the thing. Once the spider, is it like a bee? Like, you know how when bees sting people, they die like 2 minutes afterwards? Is that what happens to a spider, or do they stay alive?
Why would spiders die after biting you?
Why do bees die after stinging you?
because their stinger gets stuck in you, and that's a part of their body they're missing now.
All right, from that reaction, I'm gonna say no. It's a good title, it's a good try, but that doesn't ring any bells with the Spider-Man stories I'm thinking of, unless it's like one from like 2002.
Think of any like sequel episodes. Like he
sounds
bites...
like a sequel episode.
Can you read off the title one more time?
The spider bites twice.
You see, I feel like it'd be bites back. Like that sounds. I don't know. That sounds like something that I'd be.
That sounds like Spider-Man tries to bite the spider that bit him.
It's like a revenge fantasy.
Spider-Man comics get real weird.
I was expecting one more day to come up.
Mile gets a spray paint can out. Instead of doing graffiti, he just paints over the spider and effectively kills it. Let's say it's fake.
I'm gonna say fake.
You are both correct.
Okay.
The spider bites twice. Yeah, there really isn't. Oh, I should have. Okay. Flowers for Rhino. There we go. I was looking for a ridiculous one that was real, but...
Oh, that's a good one. Wait, is it like Flowers for Algernon?
I guess. I don't know.
I want to read that. That sounds funny.
Rhino, a brutish and dim-witted enemy of Spider-Man, suffers a midlife crisis after he fails to rescue Stella, the beautiful daughter of a mob boss who coldly informs him after he is hired as a full-time bodyguard. Oh god, this sounds really boring. Oh my god, you're right though. He undergoes a brain operation that turns him into a super genius. Really? Well, the reception was that Randy Lander from fourthrail.com said the mix of the classic Flowers for Algernon was funny and clever. Figueredo's artwork was praised, although he said Buccacello's heavy coloring distracted him from the story.
Ah, Buccacello.
Too much coloring, guy. Come on, leave a little color to the imagination. Alright, well that was the recast. I hope you had a Spidey-rific time.
Adios, amigos. That's Spider-Man's classic catchphrase.
This recast has been an illusion.
Okay, rules out.
NICKtendo also out.
Catch you guys next time.